Hello, today I'm going to be talking about Snort and how you can set up a network intrusion detection system for your home network. The topics we will be going over in this small course is what is Snort, intrusion detection systems, and setting up a NIDS Snort with Ubuntu. And we're going to go over Snort configurations and creating Snort rules. So what is Snort? Snort is an open source network intrusion detection and prevention system that you can use to monitor network traffic. It can be used in real time for traffic monitoring, protocol analysis, content matching, and OS fingerprinting. There are a few different things intrusion detection systems can do. They can detect intrusions in your network. They can be set up on your host computer. They can detect signature-based detection, so certain patterns or protocols that might occur, they can detect those. And then anomaly-based detection is detecting things that are outside of the normal processes for your network. Two main type of intrusion detection systems are HIDS and NIDS. So HIDS is a host intrusion detection systems, and they're installed on your host computer. They can be used to monitor for malicious activities on a host system. And then we have the NIDS, which we'll be setting up today. This can be used to monitor your organization's network or also your home network. So we'll be installing Snort with Ubuntu, and yeah, let's go ahead and get into the installation. So the initial requirements that we are going to need is Ubuntu and Oracle VM if you want to set this up on your computer. And once we get that Ubuntu installed through the VM, we're going to install VS Code and Snort. If you want to set up Ubuntu Jellyfish on your Raspberry Pi, during your setup, you also want to set up run this command on your Raspberry Pi setup. If you're going to set it up on your local computer, you want to use these settings to allow promiscuous mode. Another thing to mention is while you're setting up your Snort, and we want to do this for the home network. So these are common home network IPs that will be you can look into. You can try and figure out what your home network IP is. You can do this through certain commands like ipconfig or ifconfig. So if you run that on your computer, you should be able to find out what your home's network IP is. All right, so the things you're gonna need to get this set up is we're gonna need VirtualBox from Oracle. So you can, all the download and links are gonna be in the description of this video, so you can find these links there. But you're gonna need VirtualBox to download for whatever host you're using. And then once you get VirtualBox downloaded, you wanna download the ISO image for Ubuntu. And you can get that from download Ubuntu desktop. And we're going to be using the Jellyfish version for that. Another good tool that you can use to see how many subnets you want to cover. You can use this to input your home network, and then you can check how many bits you want to cover. So for this example, I'm going to be doing this range, and so we're going to have this many hosts that we can cover. But you can extend upon that, so I could change this to 20. And we're going to get more hosts that we're going to look into in the network. And if I change this to 8 here, so on and so forth. Once you get VirtualBox installed, you'll be able to open a GUI that looks similar to this. And you'll also want to save that Ubuntu ISO image in a location that you can get to. So for me, I put it in my D drive with the virtual machines. So we got the ISO here. Now what we want to do is create a new VM for Ubuntu. And so I'm going to call this Ubuntu snort demo. And the folder it's going to be dropped off in, I'm going to choose a specific location. VirtualBox, select. And now we want to grab that ISO image we downloaded from Ubuntu. So one thing we want to do for this setup is we want to click on skip unattended installation so we don't make a guest OS. And for this VM, I'm just going to set up some of the base memory. 2 processors. Next. We'll set the hard disk to 25 gigabytes. Next. And then finish. Okay, so now that we have this VM configured, let's go into settings to add a little bit more stuff. So I'm going to right click on the VM, go to settings, and then go to, in the general, I'm going to go to the advanced tab, and then for shared clipboard, I'm going to set bidirectional, drag and drop bidirectional. This will allow us to copy stuff from our host computer to this VM. Another thing I'm going to do is change the network. So you either want to set up a network, but for now I'm just going to use the bridge adapter, and then I'm going to do allow all in promiscuous mode. Now we have the VM, Ubuntu is ready, so I'm going to start it up. And to make this easier to read, I'll set this to scaled mode. And we're going to select the try or install Ubuntu. So Ubuntu, now we're going to just install Ubuntu, and we're going to select our language preferences. So I'm going to set the defaults for now, continue. And then we're just going to keep it at the default. Okay, so we're just gonna, yeah, everything's gonna be default. We have, this is a VM, so there's nothing in there. So here it's partitioning the disk. And now we are going to set the location and the name of the computer. So the name of the computer, I'm just gonna keep it simple, snort. And then you can choose your own password to use. And then I'll just say require my password and login, continue. Now it's going to go ahead and start the installation process, so we'll let it do that. Okay, when the installation completes, we need to restart the VM, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So when it gets to this stage, remove the installation medium and then press enter. What I like to do here is just power off the machine and then just double check everything's good. We'll go ahead and run it again. All right. Okay, looks like the system's booting up. All right, so I'll go ahead and log in here. Okay, so now it's going to ask us if we want to set up the account. We're just going to skip this part. We're going to skip this as well. And if you want to send messages on system info to Ubuntu, you can go ahead and do that. We'll just click next on this one. And then now that we're ready to go, we want to open this software so we can install VS Code. Okay, so we're in the software store. Here we want to find VS Code. I'm going to run the software updates in the background as well. So yeah, you just search code and you should find it down here. You can also use Sublime Text if you want to. For this tutorial, I'm going to be using VS Code. I think an easier way you might be able to search it is Visual. There we go. So if we search Visual Studio Code, it should pop up. I'm going to go ahead and install it. Okay, so we got VS Code installing, and we also have the updates running in the background. Once both these are done, we can move on to the next phase. Okay, once the updates are done, you're going to need to restart the virtual machine again. So I'm going to run that. All right, so our virtual machine is ready to go. Just for good measure, I am going to run a sudo apt-get update. And then we also want a sudo apt install nettools. And nettools is going to allow us to run commands like ifconfig. So if you want to figure out your home network, you can run ifconfig on your computer right now, and it should give you some details. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and install Snort, and this is going to be Snort version 2. I know there's a version 3 out, and maybe I will look into setting up Snort version 3 sometime in the future. But for now, what we're going to do is run this sudo apt-get install Snort and then -yes. When you're setting up Snort, it's going to ask you to configure the local network. And for this example, we're going to use 10.0.0.0.24. Okay. And one thing you want to pay attention to is this enpos3 because you will use it for certain commands. You might get a different variable for your computer. And now we want to validate that Snort is installed onto Ubuntu. So what you can do is run this command, snort --version. If this command works, you should see Snort come up here and we should be good to go. Now we're going to look into configuring Snort and looking into the Snort configurations. So I'll see you in that video. Now that we have Snort added into our Ubuntu virtual machine, let's go ahead and check out the configurations to Snort. You can look at the configurations by going to the etc snort folder. So if we list all those folders here or files, we'll see what they have to offer. And the main areas we're going to be looking into is the snort config and also the rules. Now, I'm going to be using VS Code to look at the snort config. You can use another text editor if you'd like, or you can use the terminal. But to get this running on VS Code, what I'm going to do is enter the following command: sudo code, and then we're going to go to etc snort -- no sandbox -- user - data directory -- verbose. When I run this command, it's going to open up the snort directories inside of VS Code. So once you get VS Code opened up, what you want to do is click on this snort config and browse through this configuration. The first thing you want to do inside of snort config is set up the home network. So we're going to scroll all the way down to step 1, set the network variables, and the home net is currently set to any. We're going to change that to our home network. So I'm going to do 10 not /24. Go ahead and save that. So there, I would recommend looking over this configuration because there's some pretty cool details here, like the ports and just SFTP. So good stuff for you to know in general. One thing you should look into that we will be configuring in another later video is the blacklist. So if you look up blacklist, you should see a few of them pop up here. A lot of what you do with Snort is you can create rules for Snort and then you can import them in. So when we start running Snort, it's going to start running all these rules that have been included with the config file. We're also going to create our own rules, which I'm going to go into in the next video. So yes, I will see you there where we will be creating our own local rules for Snort. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is create some custom rules for Snort. And one good website you can use to create your own rules is Snorpy. And I'll be putting a link for that in there. But yeah, you can build different rules for different protocols, and we'll be building some of the rules right now. So let's go ahead and look into that. All right, so now we're back in Ubuntu and we are looking at the snort config. I went down to line 590 where we can see we include the local rules. So there's the rule path local rules. The local rules can be found inside of this rules directory where we have a bunch of rules that have been added for us, which is great. And I'm going to scroll all the way down to local rules, and here we can create our own rules for Snort to use. Okay, so we got our local rules open, and let's go ahead and add some rules in here. Snort has a certain way they want us to write these rules, and that's why using Snorpy might help. So we can do TCP, ICMP, UDP, IP. I'm just going to go ahead and write them out, and I'm sure you'll pick it up after a while. And you can also look at the other rules that are available to see how they're written. So the first rule that we're going to write is to detect ICMP ping requests. So I'm going to create an alert, ICMP, any coming into our home network at any port. We want to give a message of ICMP ping detected. And then we're going to give this a system ID. I'm just going to give it 9001. or let's go 90,001. And then revision 1. So if you ever need to change the alert, you can change the revision number. Next, I'm going to add alerts for FTP connections. So alert TCP any host, any port into our home network at port 21. Want to give a message of FTP authentication request. Yeah, we'll do request SID of 90,002 and revision of 1. And then the final alert we're going to do for SSH. So alert TCP any host, any port into our home network. Port 22 for SSH. So the message is SSH authentication request. And the system ID of 90,003, revision 1. Now that we have our custom rules implemented, let's get Snort up and running and test out these alerts to see if they're functioning. So I'm going to go here and right click to open a new terminal window. And this is the following command you need to do to get Snort running on Ubuntu on your machine. So sudo snort-q-l var log-snort-l, and then that number we took from earlier, -a console-c etc snort config. Snort config. Let's make sure everything is, all our changes are saved. Looks good. And I'll go ahead and run this command. It's going to ask for a password. Okay, and we can see already there's somebody running an ICMP ping on this computer. Okay, cool. Okay, so usually when you run Snort, you probably don't want to see a bunch of logs coming in because that means something funky's going on with your network. But yeah, most of the time you'll see this, it'll be reading for the logs. So what we're going to do is test out those custom rules that I created for the ICMP ping, the FTP, and SSH. So we have Snort running and sniffing out our network. What I'm going to do is start up Kali Linux and also Metasploitable VMs. And these are other virtual machines like Ubuntu that you can set up. Kali for hacking tools and penetration testing, and Metasploitable is a vulnerable web server that you can use to test out your hacking capabilities. I'm gonna get both Kali and Metasploit hooked up to this network, and we're gonna run some actions on it. So I got Kali set up now, and I'm gonna get Metasploitable 2 up and running. You can also download these VMs. I added the download links into the description. So with Metasploitable 2, when you get the server up and running, should be able to log into it. So MSF admin, MSF admin. And once you get into Metasploitable, you want to get the home network IP that it is using. And you can do that with ifconfig. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and run ifconfig on this VM. And we can see it's running on internet address 10.not.not.145. So I'm going to go ahead and try and ping that on the Kali machine. So if I go to Kali here, open up the terminal, I'm going to go ahead and ping Kali, ping the Metasploit 10.not.not.not.145. If we're running this ping request, so we can see it's pinging the machine. And if I look at Ubuntu, we should see it show up on that virtual machine as well. So we can see that those ICMP requests are being picked up on our Snort system. Now I'm going to stop the ping from Kali and we're going to try a few different things. I'm going to try an FTP. Well, actually, let's try an SSH into the Metasploitable server. So I'm just going to run SSH 10.not.not.145. If that did anything here on Ubuntu. So we can see authentication request was attempted to that computer, the vulnerable Metasploit. And now what I'm going to do is FTP into that server. So FTP 10.not.not.145. And it looks like it connected to that. So I'm going to try and log in. Just FTP, password FTP. Let's see if I get in. All right, well, apparently this FTP port is open. And if we look here on Snort, we can also see that an FTP authentication request was made to that computer. So that's how you can set up custom rules with Snort. The next thing we're going to look into is configuring and implementing the white and blacklist rules for Snort so you can block IPs. In this final video, we're going to talk about configuring and implementing some simple rules for the whitelist and blacklist you can use on Snort, and that is done through the reputation preprocessor. And this preprocessor provides basic IP whitelist and blacklist capabilities, And if you want to read more, you can get more of this information through the snort.org README. And there will also be a description link for this. So let's hop over into Ubuntu and get that configured. So inside of Ubuntu, you want to open up the snort config. And inside of snort config, you want to go to find the reputation preprocessor. For this one, it's at line 536. And once you get here, you just want to uncomment this so you can allow the whitelist and blacklist rules. So if you do Control F, whitelist path, you'll see the whitelist path and the blacklist path are both set to snort rules folder that we had. So once that is uncommented out, you want to create those folders, the whitelist and blacklist rules. So you can see I create the blacklist rules here, and also there's a whitelist in here as well within the rules folder. Now let's say you found an IP that maybe you wanted to block for whatever odd reason, and let's just give it a try. So what you can do is just add the IPs one at a time in this blacklist rules. You can also get a subset or subnet. So I could do like 168.2 and then not dash 16. And that'll get a range of hosts. So if I look at that subnet calculator, if I set this to 168.95.0.0 dash 16, we'll see that it blocks around 6,500 hosts. You probably don't want to do that, but you know, for example purposes, I'll just show you that being done here. So you can do it. Yeah, you can do it either of these two ways. Now that you added some IPs to your blacklist, you can also add some alerts in your local rules to alert if someone on the blacklist is attempting to do something on your network. So you could do alert MSG reputation event blacklist. And then we want to do SID -1 GID 136 rev 1 metadata rule type preproc and then class type add dash unknown. And we can do the same alert for the whitelist as well. So I'll paste that in here and then just change this to whitelist. And the SID, we'll change that to 2. GID is the same. And I'll go ahead and save that. Now let's go ahead and test to see if it is able to block those IP addresses. So if I run snort here, we'll see the SSP reputation blacklisted IP is being blocked. So that IP shouldn't show up. It shouldn't be pinging the computer. It should be dropping those calls now. And these alerts are kind of noisy, so I usually like to just keep them off. Control save. So Control C here. And if I run this again, we should see Snort's a lot quieter now because it's not picking up, it's dropping all the blocked IPs. Let's say, for example, I unblock that IP. So if I go to the block list and then just comment these out here. If I comment out the blacklist and then run the server again, we're going to see it is now allowing that connection, which I don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and block it again. So save that, stop snort, run it again, and we should see that it is no longer allowing those pings. So yeah, that was my short tutorial on setting up Snort for your home network. Now that you have Snort set up, you can explore it more. Good places to start is looking at the community rules for Snort. Another cool thing you can do is you can install Ubuntu on your Raspberry Pi and then have Snort running 24/7 on your network, which is pretty cool. That's something I might get into maybe if you're interested, but it should be pretty simple to set up. You just add Ubuntu ISO on your memory stick and then install it into your Raspberry Pi. And you do the same setup as we went through in this course.